My name is Pat Shifter, and I'm here to explain some things in Monster Hunter World and give some general advice and tips and tricks in this video in the hopes that people in Mally's Discord and players new to the game might find it easier to digest and might find the game more fun to play and a little bit less frustrating. Monster Hunter World is a great game. I have about 300 hours in the PS4 version, getting close to 100 hours on PC. I have like 150 hours in Monster Hunter 4. I really like the series. So this is going to go over just some, kind of basic stuff. If you want me to go over a specific thing, or if you want to correct me on something, I'm by no means an expert, and I may have misunderstood something or just been wrong about something. I don't mind being corrected. Just let me know. Reach out to me on Discord, where I'm Pat Shifter on Discord. I'm Pat Shifter on Twitter. I'm Pat Shifter on Steam. Just let me know if you need help with something. If you want to hunt something, you're stuck somewhere, you want some help taking down a monster, just let me know. I love helping new players. I don't care if it's low rank, I don't care if it's high rank. I really just care if it's tempered Kieran, and when you get up to that point, you'll understand why. But yeah, I like helping people. If you want me to go over weapons, like if you don't want to watch a weapon tutorial, I'll be glad to sit down and show you how certain weapons work. My main weapon is the insect glaive. The second popular weapon for me is the lance, but I also like charge blade, great sword, and all that. There may be some weapons that I'm not good with, like the long sword and the heavy bowgun and all that, that I could point you to some weapon tutorials. That's the best that I could do. But if you have interest in the weapons that I do play, I'll be glad to show you what I'm doing. I'll be glad to, let you watch my Steam broadcast, and I can explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing things. There might be some spoilers in this video. I'll just get that out of the way. And just in terms of location names and monster names, I'm already done with the main story quest, and I'm at the point where I'm just farming hunter rank. So I'll try and blur out some of the super late game monsters, but like I said, just be warned. I'm not gonna overtly say any spoilers. I'll try and avoid that. But yeah, just let me know. You might have seen these tips and tricks already. This is just stuff that I've compiled, whether just through watching other people or just playing the game. And keep in mind that what works for me might not work for you, but this should give you a good framework to kind of build something that makes the game easier for you and makes the game what you want it to be. At the end of the video, I'm going to link to some resources that are really helpful in terms of learning the game, like weapon tutorials and uh, databases and all that. And I'll link them in the description. I'll also link the timestamps in the description with what is going to be discussed and gone over. Yeah, like I said, if you have any questions, just reach out to me. Or if you want me to explain something or go over something, reach out to me. I really love the game and I really love helping new players. So yeah, let's get on with it. One quick thing to know before we actually really get started. I am not a video editor or recorder or anything like that, so the quality of this video is going to be garbage because I have no idea what I'm doing. Please forgive me. Thanks. So the first thing I want to show you actually doesn't have anything to do with Monster Hunter, it has stuff to do with Steam. If you use a controller to play Monster Hunter World, you'll notice that if you hit Shift Tab when you're in game to pull up the menu to chat with your friends and all that, you get the big picture mode, which is terrible. In order to fix that, if you go to your Steam library or Steam application, click Steam in the top left, hit Settings, in game, uncheck the box that says use the big picture overlay when using Steam, and that will give you back your normal menu. If I close out of this and reopen it again, and now I have the normal menu. So the first Monster Hunter related tip that I'm going to share with you relates to the camera settings. If you're using the default controls, you can use F if you're on PC, or in using the keyboard and mouse to cycle through all the monsters that you can focus on. If you're using a controller, the default keybind is pushing your right thumbstick down. And the default setting for this is to just lock on to the monster, so as you move around, your camera just stays locked on that monster. And this is just me, but I don't like that because I can't see where I'm going, and if you try to move the camera, it breaks your lock on, so now you don't know where the monster is. So if we open up the options menu and go to camera settings on the second page, we can change camera style to target camera. And what this will do is if we now set our focus to the pillar over here, it'll lock onto it. We can move around, we can move our camera any which direction, but if we hit the L1 button, it'll instantly put the monster or whatever we have targeted into the center of the screen and give us focus on it. I find this a lot easier for avoiding attacks, for getting away from a monster if it's trying to kill you, if you need to heal or sharpen, and just gives you better control. The second option that I like to mess with in camera options is to change the target settings to large monsters only. So this way, on your target list on the bottom near your minimap, you will only see large monsters. You won't see the little Jagras or the little Gyros, because monsters like great Jagras and great Gyros always have a little posse with them, and you don't want to be spending your time spamming your lock on going through all the little monsters. And the last camera option that I like to change, it's a minor change, but I usually play with it. If you go to camera distance, you can set it to far and it zooms out just a little bit. It really not game breaking, but that's just what I prefer. Next up, I want to talk about the radial menu. If you hold down your L1 button, as if you were selecting your items, you can use your right joystick and it pops up with this little radial menu. The default setting for your radial menu is you kind of point to the item that you want to use and you let go of the stick, and that's what actually uses the item. I find this a little bit awkward because sometimes when I'm in the heat of battle or just focusing on something else, I'll want to use my whetstone, for example, and just kind of try and flick it up, but I'll hit a different item instead. If we go into options in the second tab here under controls, if we change our radial menu settings to type 2, what this will do is if now you use your radial menu, you can point it wherever you want and let go of the stick, but in order to use the item, you just have to press the stick down. I find this just a little bit more convenient, and it gives me a little bit more control when I'm using the radial menu. And it's also good for crafting. So here I have my flash pods, and I can just hit the R3 button and just craft however many flash pods that I need. So the next radial menu tip I want to talk about relates to crafting. If you ever go out on a hunt, you notice that you can only bring a limited number of items with you. For example, you can only bring 3 flash pods, and you can only bring 2 barrel bombs, and you can only bring 1 shock trap. However, you are able to bring the ingredients to make those. And while you can just open up your crafting menu and just make them through the normal menu, you can also assign the crafting items to your radial menu. So for example, let's say you bring 10 potions and you bring 10 honey with you. On top of the 10 mega potions you can bring, you can also craft additional mega potions. So if we open options menu and go to customize radial menu, we'll choose an empty spot here and switch the tab to crafting. We can put mega potions there. So now on my radial menu, we have the ability to craft mega potions. So with the tip earlier, I have to spam the button. So now I have essentially 20 mega potions, and I don't have to spend time going into the crafting list and finding mega potions and doing it that way. You can still keep an eye on what's in the field and what's happening if you're doing it in the middle of a fight with a monster, and it just makes it a lot easier to manage your items. The last thing I want to talk about with regards to the radial menu is how it's saved with your item loadouts. So let's just say I spend a whole bunch of time like, oh, I want to have my mega potions here, I want to put, I don't know, an ancient potion on this slot, and I want to put, nutrients in here, and I customize my radio menu to the way that I like. And then I go to my item box, and I go to my loadouts, and I'm like, alright, I'm going to choose loadout 1, use the loadout, get out in the field, start hunting a monster, and then look at my radio menu, and those options are gone. That is because your items as well as your radio menu configuration is saved in an item loadout. So if you make any changes to your radio menu, make sure you go back to your item box, go to manage items, and re-save your loadout. This is handy because if you have different radio menus for different things, for example, if you are a gunner and you use bow guns and bows, you can customize your entire radio menu to equip or craft coatings, and you can just save that radio menu options with your loadout that has all your ammo and has all your coatings. This next little trick involves wedge beetles. If you've ever been walking around the world, you've noticed these little beetles that kind of hang from limbs, and they are used to grapple onto and get you to higher places or across gaps. So if you see here in the Coral Highlands, I have to climb up this big old vine wall here, and in order to get to the top of the mountain where Legiana and Kieran and all them sleep, you have to climb like 1,000 different vine walls to get to the top. However, they do give you wedge beetles, like you can see him right up there. He's, blah blah. In order to use them, you have to have your weapon sheathed. So put it away if you have it out, and you hold L2 or left trigger, whatever it is on your control scheme. Look at the wedge beetle, and you'll get a little prompt that says, hit circle for wedge beetle. I believe on Xbox it's B or A, I don't know. So if you just hit that, you'll shoot your grapple out, and you just climb that entire wall without having to waste stamina and waste time. You can also chain them together, so if you see there's a wedge beetle right in front of me to cross this gap, and there's also a wedge beetle behind it. So you can grapple onto this one, look at the next one, and, chain them together. If you're good at the game, unlike me, you can also use wedge beetles to swing around and let go and use your jumping attacks in order to mount a monster. So if Legiana's right there, I could try and hit her on the way down, but I use an insect glaive and I can just jump and do it myself. So let's talk about flashing. So any monster that has wings, with the exception of, I believe, 2 monsters in this game, will fly up and be pretty damn annoying for melee weapon users. But if you bring your handy dandy flash pods, it makes those fights very, very easy. So if we just wait for our favorite little bat lizard bird thing to start flying, shoot a flash pod in front of her, and she gets knocked out of the air. And she'll be on the ground stunned for a while. You can see the little sparkles above her head. And then she'll let you get free hits in. There is a limit to how many flash pods you can use on a monster, because there is diminishing returns. I believe it's 5, but they may have changed that because an Elder Dragon called Teostra was super easy to cheese with flash pods. So the more flash pods that you use on a monster, the less effective they will be. So if I shoot another flash pod, Legiana will still come down. She'll still get the sparkles, but she will stand up quicker than she did before, and she's stunned for less. You can use flash pods on monsters that are on the ground. It's just more effective when they're in the air because they will flop around on the ground for a little bit to get free hits in. Keep in mind that when you shoot a flash pod, you have to shoot it in front of the monster. Apparently not. Generally, with most monsters, you have to shoot it in front of them. Monsters like Rathian, Pink Rathian, and Rathalos have pretty strict hitboxes as to what is considered in front of them. Apparently, Legiana does not. This next tip is about poop. So as you get further in the game, especially in high rank, you'll have a situation like this where, I want to fight Legiana, but Clifford shows up and just wants to be a big old jerk. If you bring out your Dung Pods, they work just like any other slinger ammo and slinger pod, and you shoot it at the monster. That will make them leave the area. See, Leg Dog is totally out of here now, and now you can fight your monster in peace. Like I said, as you get into high rank, this multi-monster thing happens a lot, especially with one particular certain jerk bird that's full of pine cones and explosions. So it's always recommended to bring Dung Pods into a hunt, especially in high rank. When you are fighting and you're deciding which monster to use a Dung Pod on, generally people suggest to use it on the one that you're fighting. So let's just say, I'm fighting here, and, Odogaron comes back. Since Odogaron just came into this area, in Area 8, he's going to stay here longer. So I would use my Dung Pod on Legiana and force Legiana to move. That way, I can maximize the time that Odogaron is in an area not fighting me, and maximize the time that I'm fighting, Legiana in the new area that she just went to. I'm going to talk about the minimap status icons for the monster. You can see Legiana here has a little drooling monster next to her. That means she's exhausted. She's out of stamina, and certain moves of hers will just outright fail. For example, she tries to do her Ice Breath attack, nothing will come out. She has a chance to fall. And if you noticed before, there is a little X on the minimap. That means that she is coming to this area. That icon won't show up unless you are, unless your Scoutfly level is sufficiently high enough to see the destination icons. So you'll be able to actually see where monsters are going when they're leaving the area. The other thing you'll notice is that there's a little icon right below the Legiana on the minimap. People on Reddit says it's a monster eye. I don't know what it is. I guess it's an eye. So you can see that it's yellow right now. That means the monster is in combat and is, actively trying to fight the hunter. So let's see if we can get that icon to change. Eventually, as you do damage to monsters, they will get enraged, and typically the telltale sign for that is they will roar and they'll get some additional moves in their arsenal. For example, when Rathalos enrages, he will always roar, and then he will always fly backwards and shoot a fireball down. So now that I've sufficiently pissed off Legiana, her icon has turned to red. That means that she's enraged, and she gets more aggressive, and she will do more moves. For example, on a Rathian, the green dragon, wyvern, sorry, they will shoot one fireball forward. However, when they're enraged, she'll always shoot three. She'll shoot center, left, and right. So they just get additional moves, and they're just generally more dangerous to fight. This is when skills like Agitator, which is an armor skill that increases your attack when a monster is enraged, this is when those skills will activate. So prior to this, when Legiana had the drooling monster icon next to her icon on the minimap, she was exhausted and her moves can fail. When she's enraged, it doesn't matter if she's exhausted or not. All of her moves will be able to hit you and succeed unless you dodge them, etc., etc. The other status icon that you can see if your Scoutflies are high enough are little skulls. The skulls coming out from the monster mean that the monster is almost dead and that it is trappable. So if you see skulls on the map, the monster is trappable. If your Scoutfly level isn't high enough, you still have to rely on whether it's limping or by the amount of drops that it's given you. So now that Legiana is no longer enraged, we can see that she's back to being good old drooling monster face and yellow icon. So she's still in combat with me, but she's no longer enraged. And also, if you look at Legiana, you can see that she's drooling profusely. That's another way to tell if the monster is out of stamina and exhausted. Exhausted monsters will stay in traps and stay stunned longer as well. So if you're going to use a trap to try and get some free hits on a monster, don't do it when it's enraged because it'll break out relatively quickly. Wait until it's exhausted, or at the very least, just wait till it's not enraged. Let's talk about the research, people, the ecological research. This was asked to me last night because there's a difference between research levels on a monster and Scoutfly levels. So as you come into Astera, you might notice that it says, ecological research results or new ecological research something. And at the end of quests, you'll see the monster you just fought and like a level up with a bunch of stars for that particular monster's research. So what that means is you come over to this little dude on the books here, and you talk to him, and then it'll say like a monster field guide updated, and then it'll just update the monsters. So what the monster field guide is, it's just a collection of all the monsters that you fought, and as you level up that monster's research level, you will unlock different tabs. So the first tab, for example, on Valhazak here, is its ecology. It'll tell you where you find it. The known habitats is the Rotten Vale. It'll give you a little, lore blurb about it, how many you've hunted, and the size of your smallest and largest one that you've seen. At research level 1, which I'm at with Valhazak here, you will unlock its physiology tab. The physiology tab will tell you what you can break on a monster. So for example, here I can break his head, and I can break his little tum-tum. And then it can also tell you if you can sever its tail. If its tail is severable, means you can just chop it off. It'll also tell you what it's weak against. So for example, its head, it's always going to be weak to hammer. Hammers are just going to hit the head. I should say hammers and hunting horns, because they're the only two blunt weapons. Whereas the tail, that's where the bladed weapons shine. On the right hand side here, you'll also notice that your elements are here as well. So Valhazak is really weak against dragon and really weak against fire, but he's not weak against water at all. If you use water on him, it's not going to do any damage. And then it'll also list how weak they are to different ailments. So in this case, Valhazak has a slight weakness to poison, sleep, and paralysis, and a medium weakness to blast and stun, whereas a monster like Kashala is super weak against poison and super weak against blast. So as you unlock more research ranks at level 2, you will unlock low rank rewards. So here for Kuliyaku, it'll tell you what you'll get if you break his head, break his legs, if you break his head, and if he drops a material, like the little shinies, those little blue, white things you see on the ground, that has a chance to be a Kuliyaku plume. I'll also tell you what you'll get if you carve it, and what you'll get as a reward from the quest. The rewards you will always get whether you capture it or you carve it. So if I kill a Kuliyaku, I have a very high chance of getting a Kuliyaku hide. But you notice that you can only get some rewards from carving. Actually, no, that's not true anymore. I forget I said that. You can get additional rewards from carving. So for example, if you're really trying to get a Kuliyaku beak, you'll notice that you have a higher chance to get it from carving him versus rewards. So, and instead of capturing the monster, you might think about, murder, and that makes you a terrible person. When you unlock rank 4, you will unlock the high rank rewards, and that'll same exact thing as low rank. It'll tell you what it drops. At research level 5, it'll tell you the exact drop rates for those high rank rewards, and at level 6, it's going to show you the rare rewards. So for here, Anjanath, if I was at level 5 research level, I wouldn't see this Anjanath gem here. Now, these are monster research. There is a separate item called Scoutfly research. So if you talk to, Buddy Book over here, and you go to research levels, you can see the progress that you've made first on just the ecological research. That'll show you its drops and all that we just looked at, but it'll also show you the Scoutfly level. So as you go out into the world and you start gathering tracks and all that, your Scoutflies will level up. So you can see here for POOGIE, I'm only at level 1 Scoutfly level. You can see what they do here. So at Scoutfly level 1, if I'm tracking a POOGIE, the Scoutflies are going to lead me to where the closest POOGIE track is. So when I pick that up, it'll lead me to the next track. When it gets to level 2, it's going to show me where the monster is on the map. So, for example, Great Jagras. My Scoutfly level is level 2 for him, so if I go out into any map, I'll be able to see Great Jagras on the map right away, no matter what. Once you hit level 3, that's when you start getting the detailed status, things like whether it's tired, whether it's almost dead, where it's going to in its destination. The Scoutfly levels do degrade over time, so you can see here that on Zitsuyaku, if I don't go out and get more tracks, this Scoutfly level is going to degrade. But the Scoutfly level will never go below these markers. So this marker here is level 1, and that's level 2 and level 3. So you don't have to worry about it going from like level 1 to level 0. It's never going to drop below that. So I think I saw an example here, like on Kuliaku. This icon is green. That's where my Scoutflies are at right now. They're not going to go below that marker. So Scoutfly levels are gained from gathering tracks and all the little items when you're tracking a monster, whereas the research levels come from killing the monster, breaking its parts, and all that. So, for example, I just said that I'll be able to always see Great Jagras on the map, and I'll be able to see Anjanath as well. So if I go into a lone rank expedition in the ancient forest and open a map, I should be able to see Anjanath right away. And I can already see him. I can see him on the mini-map in the corner there, and I can also see Toby as well. So I can see where Anjanath is going. If you look really quick, there's a little X under him before he got to the icon. But since right there's that X again. But since my Scoutfly levels aren't high enough for Toby, I can only see where Toby is. I can't see his destination, what he's doing, or his status, or anything like that. Let's talk about making money. You'll get to a point where you don't really need money, just because you're farming a lot of monsters and you're just getting a lot of money from the quests. But if you're in low rank and you need money, or if you just entered high rank and you realized how expensive high rank weapons and high rank armor are, you will need money. One easy way that you can get it is if you go to your botanical research guy and cultivate mite seeds. Mite seeds sell for 140 gold apiece, and they're relatively easy to farm through your garden. Now, your garden may not look as big as mine because you haven't progressed in the story long enough or done the optional quest for the botanical research people. The other way to get money is to use the bandit mantle. As you get further in the story, you will get a quest from the Armory gal called Redefining the Power Couple. If you do that, it makes you fight a Rathalos and a Rathian. You do that quest, you're rewarded with the Bandit Mantle. The Bandit Mantle works just like the Ghillie Mantle or the other ones, where you just throw it on, but as you hit monsters, they'll drop little shinies on the ground that you can sell for money. If you go into your Sell Items tab, there is a button that says Sell All Trade-in Items. For me, it's triangle. It's on the Xbox, that would be the Y button, but if you hit that, it'll say the total comes to whatever, and it'll turn in all your trade-in items. Trade-in items, I believe, are on the monster tab. A lot of monster parts, apparently. And you'll notice it just says in yellow, trade-in items. So, trade-in items have no value outside of selling them. So if you just go to sell items and hit triangle, you can just get a bunch of money that way. Chances are, if you've never done that option before, your first payout will be pretty big, around maybe 50,000 or more. Oh yeah, the other tip for making money is to use vouchers. Lucky vouchers. As you log in, you'll notice in the corner it says get your login bonus. That happens every day. You can get a lucky voucher every day. And what a lucky voucher will do is when you're selecting a quest, it says, do you want to toggle a voucher? So when you toggle a lucky voucher, you will get double money at the end of the quest. And you will also get a little bit extra rewards from the monster as well. You can only carry 5 lucky vouchers at one time, and you can only use one at a time. So if you log in and you have 5 lucky vouchers, I would just do a quest real quick with a lucky voucher before claiming your daily login bonus, just so you don't lose out on that lucky voucher. Just going to throw in a quick note here about event quests. So periodically there will be different events and event quests that you can do. You will get a notification about it when you get your daily login bonus. Generally, they are worth doing depending on which one it is. Some of them will have different rewards. Some of them will be kind of like a cheeky little fun quest where you can craft new gear, and the event quest will give you the materials for that gear. Other times they will have different like rewards. So for example, this year, the Triple Threat Throwdown. This pits you in the arena against the 3 easiest monsters in the game. And the reason you'd want to do that is, if you read the description, it says, this is a quest I prepared just for you. You won't believe how many decorations you'll get when you complete this quest. What that's telling you is, you're going to get more decorations than normal when you beat this quest. When you see a quest like this, you're going to think, oh my god, 5 monsters? Who would do that? There's a couple things to keep in mind. Number 1, whenever there's more than 2 or 3 monsters in a quest as a target, all of the monsters' healths are reduced by a pretty significant amount. And whenever you see event quests like this, they have a chance of being crown monsters. A crown monster basically means it's either very big or very small. If you've ever fought a monster at the end and it says this was a largest monster you've seen, and it has like a little silver or gold crown next to it, you do these event quests if you want to hunt those down. There are achievements associated with them, and sometimes it's pretty funny to either see a really big monster or a really tiny one. This event quest here, for example, snow and cherry blossoms, it tells you bonus HR points awarded upon completion. So if I were to do this quest, I could get a big bonus to my hunter rank. There are other event quests that will drop armor spheres, for example. There are ones that will drop decorations like the triple threat throwdown. There's some that'll just drop random ingredients. There are some that are just gathering quests with the sole intention of tracking monsters' footprints for investigations. As you get past high rank, you get the ability to fight tempered monsters, which is what these two are. You can see how there's purple around them. That means they're tempered. They're a little bit tougher than usual. And it's a little bit hard to find tempered Elder Dragon tracks or Tier 2 tempered monster quests. So sometimes they'll release an event quest where it's like, gather 10 mushrooms, but the whole area is filled with tempered Elder Dragon prints. So as you gather footprints for those monsters, you will sometimes get investigations for tempered monsters. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on the event quests. If you ever want to know what they do, you can Google the name of the quest with rewards, and you can see what they are, because sometimes it's not explicitly laid out as to what you would want to do this quest for. But like I said, check your login bonuses, see if the event quests change, and pop in there, see if they have any good rewards for you. This tip deals with ancient potions. What ancient potions will do is, let's say you faint in a fight and you can't eat, ancient potions will fully restore your health and increase the maximum it can go to, and it will also fully restore your stamina and increase your stamina to the max that it can be too. So they're relatively easy to craft. They need an immunizer, which is a catalyst, and a mandragora. And catalyst is that. You can easily get these items from your botanical garden or just by harvesting. But the other ingredient is a Kelbi horn, and that can be a little bit tough to find if you don't know how to do it. So the first option you can do is you can send your tail riders out. If you deploy your tail rider safari, and I guess I'll send Mally's cats out. If you look in the different locations you can go, you can look for the Kelbi here. And I don't see any in these maps. Now there's one in here, Coral Highlands. If you look at Route A, this is the icon for a Kelbi. So you can find which one has the most Kelbi, and you can just send your little tail riders out to get it. The other option is just to go get it yourself. And the easiest way to do that is to hunt Kelbi. But there's a trick to it. You can't just kill the Kelbi and carve it. You will rarely, if at all, get Kelbi horns. So what I find is the easiest is to just equip a hammer. You don't even have to have a good hammer. This is the default starting hammer. So you just throw that on, and then go on an expedition to the Wildspire Waste and start at the southwest camp. Once you get into the Wildspire Waste, they are literally right outside the camp. And all you have to do is just beat the crap out of these. And you don't have to know anything about using the hammer. All you have to do is just hold R2 or right trigger, wait for 2 charges, and just bop the little deer in the face. And the shiny that they drop will always be a Kelbi horn. So, just another quick recap. With the hammer, if you hold R2, you charge. That's 2 charges, 3 charges. The easiest one to hit with is the level 2 charge. So let me find another victim here. So I'm going to hold R2, I get 1, 2, and then let go, and hit the Kelbi. And it drops its Kelbi horn. Then you can take those to make your ancient potions. This next tip involves the Charge Blade and the Greatsword. If you don't use those weapons, feel free to skip ahead, or if you just want to watch and see a cool little trick with these weapons, if they interest you, stick around. So, I was talking with Heat the other day. He uses the Charge Blade quite a bit, and I was talking about the concept of guard points. Um, so, when you use the Charge Blade, there are certain animations where your shield will stick out and for like a couple of frames. So for example, if I were to switch to two-handed axe mode, you saw for like a split second that my hunter stuck the shield out in front of her, like right there. If anything were to try and hit me during that animation, whether it is a fireball, whether it's Nergigante's super dive, whether it's just Rathian running around the area, if a monster hits your shield when it's out like that, it will block all that damage. And not only will it block all of that damage, if you have your files charged up and your shield charged up, it will actually do file damage to the monster. So, for example, what is this Charge Blade? This is an impact file. So that can stun monsters. So if, Rathian is running at you full speed and you get that guard point off, it's going to do that impact file damage and you have a chance to KO monsters. So in order to do it, you can practice on the barrel in the training room. So if you hit the barrel, boom, there's that little lightning bolt. That was a guard point. So I still took a little bit of chip damage and got knocked back. But if that were a monster's head or like a monster's attack, it would have done impact damage to the monster. This can also be used to deflect monster roars. So you're going up against a Rathalos and, whenever you fight one of those monsters, you hit them a couple times, they look at you, they roar, your hunter kind of staggers and covers your ears, and you're just a couple of seconds where you can't do anything. If you were to time your guard point correctly, you would block that roar and just be able to go right back in and start bopping the monster. There are multiple guard points for a Charge Blade. So for example, that is one, the normal two-handed axe swing. I believe that the transition back to sword and shield is the same way. So when you hit R2 to go back into sword and shield mode, right there, as your shield is stuck out, that is also another guard point. The Greatsword has a similar mechanic. I don't really think it's called a guard point, but it does have the ability to basically block incoming damage through tackling. So if you've ever been using the Greatsword, after a roll or whatever, you have this tackle move. So you can roll and tackle. That blocks all will block the damage and basically kind of give you iframes. It may do chip damage, but it still blocks a lot of moves. Like, it could do the same thing as guard points. Like, it can block monster wars, it can knock Nergigante's dive, it can block fireballs, as long as you're good at timing it. So there's two ways to do the tackle. You can roll and hit triangle, or as you're charging, you can hit circle. See? I took no damage and wasn't knocked back by the barrel. And normally, if I hit the barrel and just take the hit, I get blown back. But since I tackled through it, didn't take any damage, didn't get knocked back. The longsword has something similar to it with Foresight Slash. I don't know if it blocks all damage or can be used on roars or anything, but the concept is the same if you time it right. And same thing with the lance counterattacks, but they're just kind of minor versions of that. And speaking of the greatsword's tackle, if you are a greatsword player, you can use the tackle to get to your true charge, which is your most damaging move, relatively quickly. So, you draw your weapon, this is normal charge, and you hit your thing, and then you do your second charge, and you hit the monster again, and then you do your true charge, and then you hit it, and bam. But that takes a long time. If you want to expedite that process, you can do your charge, tackle, charge again, tackle, and you're in your true charge. So that's just a little quick tip for greatsword users. Let's talk about the cutest little MFer in the game, POOGIE. So you may have noticed this little pig wandering around Astera. This is POOGIE. He's cute. Love him. If you pet him, you'll get this little mini game. If you wait for the exclamation points and hit circle, you'll pet him and little hearts will pop out. If you mess it up, he hates you and will knock you over. So as you increase your friendship level with POOGIE, he'll start to like you more. And his friendship level can only go up once in between quests. So you pet him, you get your friendship bonus. You pet him again, it's not going to do anything. But if you go out on a quest, come back, pet him again, you'll be able to increase your friendship level. As you increase your friendship level with POOGIE, let me see if I can find him again. He might be hiding because I pet him incorrectly. As you increase your friendship level with POOGIE, you'll be able to pick him up and place him in Astera, and he can actually dig up items from you for you in the town. As I mentioned in the little blurb about the canteen, you can pick him up and put him next to the handler, and he'll have a chance of picking up a meal voucher for the canteen. You can also find other stuff like dragonite ore, potions, herbs, and stuff if you drop them in places. He can also find costumes for himself, so you can change your POOGIE into a different costume. So let's see if I can find him again. Alright, so POOGIE's back. So I'm gonna pet him again because he's so cute. So he's still not super best friends with me, but you can still pick him up. So when he's super best friends with you and you pick him up, you can take him to certain areas in Astera and he can dig up items. You'll know when you're near an item. Like for example, there's usually one right here, but I've already gotten it. Your controller will start to rumble if you have vibration enabled, and POOGIE will kind of squirm in your arms. If you put him down, he will dig up the item. And as I said, he can dig up some random ingredients and everything. He can dig up vouchers if you put him next to the handler. And he can also dig up costumes. So I have this cute little diaper, and this is his default one. There's a frog one and all that. So if you just bring him to different places in Astera, if he likes you, he can dig this up for you. The last little bit of advice I want to give you is to use the training room and to try every single weapon. You may have started the game with one particular weapon and you might enjoy it, but Monster Hunter has 14 different weapons and they're all good if you like them and know how to use them. You will gravitate towards one weapon that you like a lot. For me, on PC, it happens to be the Insect Glaive, which is why I have a bunch of them. Followed by the lance. But go to the training room, pick up a weapon. You're in a safe environment where you have infinite items. You're not gonna die, and you have a whole bunch of targets to practice on, and you can kind of play with each weapon and just try it out. You might find that the weapon you started with isn't the weapon for you. For example, in Monster Hunter 4, I think I started with the Great Sword, and while it was a lot of fun, I ended up finding the Charge Blade and just absolutely loved it. So I would say go into the training room, try out every weapon, play around with the combos, see if it clicks for you, because you might find a new weapon that way. And even with your current weapon, the one that you like, if you feel that you need more practice with it, come to the training room, look at the combos. You have the basic combos on the left there, and if you open your hunter's notes, you can see the full combos in here. So it shows you the controls and it shows you all the useful combos. And it gives you some weapon theory. For example, it tells you about demon mode, demon gauge, and arch demon mode for the dual blades.